Well, my top rated book on confidence is called The Super You. I'm sending it to you, physical book, free. Go to the link down there. You got it.
DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. The topic today are invisible barriers. Thought about this. I heard a dude telling a story about an electric fence that he put up on his property for his dog. Because he had a dog who, every time he got the dog outside, the dog would just go running all crazy, all off the property, running all over the place. So this dude got an electric fence installed so the dog would stop running around, and they had to go chase the dog. And y'all know the way the electric fence works. If you don't know, basically they bury like some wires or some stuff underground, so you don't actually see the fence. They bury these wires underground, and then they put a collar around the dog. And when the dog gets close to the edges of this fence, quote unquote fence, the dog gets this little shock in the collar, and it doesn't hurt the dog, but the dog gets a little shock, enough of a shock for the dog to understand, okay, when I come there, they associate it. When I come near here, I get that shock, so the dog doesn't go near there. So basically the dog learns what the perimeter of the fence is. So this dude put the electrical fence in, put the collar around the dog. The dog learned what the perimeter of the fence was, and then even after he deactivated the fence, like he turned the fence off, like turned the collar off, turned the fence off, so the dog, if it would have ran, it could have got away. But it was so effective, it taught the dog so well how that fence worked, that the dog wouldn't go outside of that area even when the fence was no longer activated, because the dog obviously is not a human, doesn't have the power to reason. You can't explain to the dog, hey, the fence is turned off. So it taught him so well that the dog would never do it again. And I'm bringing that up to explain to you, when it comes to invisible fences, us human beings, we do the same thing. Like, we get these limitations in our mind that we didn't install them there. Maybe they were real, maybe they weren't. They could be real or not real. But once we get them in our mind, they become an electric fence, meaning even when we can overcome the limitation, or even when the limitation, if it was real, it doesn't even exist anymore, we still live as if the fence is still turned on, right? We don't go outside of that box. It's kind of like if you grew up doing something a certain way, your parents taught you to do something a certain way, you do it that way even when you're an adult, even though the limitation of your parents making you do that doesn't exist anymore, because you're an adult now and you can do what you want. For example, a few years ago, I was eating a meal and I was pretty much done. I was pretty much full, but I still had a little bit of food on my plate, and I was like taking my time, and I was like struggling to finish eating this food. And my girlfriend was like, yo, are you done eating? And I was like, almost, but I still got this food that I got to eat. And she was like, well, are you full? You seem like you're full because you're not eating. And I was like, yeah, I am full, but I got to finish my food. She was like, why you got to finish it? And I said, well, you got food on your plate, you got to eat it. Because that was the way that I was always taught, right? When I was a kid, if we didn't eat all our food, we got in trouble. Somebody would get mad at us. And this was not just my parents, but any family that I was around. You got to eat all your food. Whatever's on your plate, you got to eat it all. You know, be thankful for your food. There are people starving. You know, eat everything that you got. That's the way that I was raised. But then she said to me, yo, you eating that food is not going to help you because you're full. It's not going to feed anybody who's starving. If you're done eating, just stop eating. Get rid of the food. You're done. And it was crazy because I was over, I don't know how old I was, 30-something years old when this happened. And I'm like, yo, I never even thought about that. It sounds like silly, but I never even thought that way because I'd always been raised to eat everything. And I know some of y'all were raised the exact same way, but that's an electric fence. That's an invisible barrier. That's one of the things that I'm talking about. But let's get into the points here so you can figure out where your electric fences are. Number one, what ideas, and this is along the lines of what I just said, what ideas have you accepted from other people who do not have your picture of success? See, who has not achieved what you want to achieve, but they're giving you advice on how to get that achievement and you're accepting it? That doesn't make sense, right? Somebody who hasn't done what you want to do, but they're telling you how to do it. Now, we see this all the time, right? On social media, you get people talking about how an athlete is supposed to play their game, or how a singer is supposed to sing their song, or how a business person is supposed to run their business, or how a politician should serve the community. They haven't done the thing before, but they want to tell you how to do it. Like Jay-Z got the song where he said, everybody can tell you how to do it, but they never did it. So what invisible barriers have you accepted from other people who don't have what you want, but they're trying to tell you how to do certain things? That doesn't make sense, but you have maybe never even thought about it this way, and you're accepting an invisible barrier for no reason. Coming up, I mean, I told you about the food thing, but I grew up around people who had some really unhealthy ideas when it came to money, when it came to finances. And they thought in a way that I could never achieve what I wanted to achieve financially. live the life that I want to live if I had continued to accept those ideas. And once I realized that I had accepted some bad ideas, some invisible barriers that were holding me back, I started making changes. But first of all, you got to be aware of what the barriers are. That's what this video is about. Number two, what limiting theories do you harbor that you've never tested yourself? What things do you say to yourself? I can't do this. I'm not able to. I can't go in this place. Nobody's going to help me, or anything, any limitations that you use in your language or your thinking, but you never actually tested it. You never actually tried to do it, but you say you can't. You never asked anybody to help you, but you say nobody will help you. You never tried to get yourself seen, but nobody has seen you, so you assume that nobody wants to come look at you. What ideas do you have in your mind? And listen, every human being, we all have plenty of these. Challenge is how honest are you willing to be with yourself about how many of them you have, and how many of them are you willing to admit, you know what, this is BS, this is not real, I never really tested this, I don't know it to be true, but I've accepted it as true. And what happens is people come to use these as excuses and limitations in their lives. If you want to see this in action, all you gotta do is go through a bunch of my videos, just look at the comments. You'll see a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of limiting ideas that they've never tested, but they got all these excuses and all this bitching they're doing about it, bitching to the internet, as if bitching to the internet is going to change the situation. So that's one of them. For me, for example, when I was playing ball, if you play basketball a lot, you may know that your knees will feel a little bit sore because you're putting a lot of wear and tear on your knees playing basketball. I would never play ball outside on concrete, and I would never run outside on concrete. If I ran, I would run on the treadmill, simply because I had this belief that it was the concrete that was messing up my knees. But let me tell you what I learned. After I stopped playing ball, I started running outside. I didn't want to do it, but I was like, let me try it. Let me just see how it goes. My knees hurt, then I won't do it anymore. So I started running outside, right? Just regular running. I'm talking about running 5 miles or something like that. And my knees haven't bothered me at all. I ran a marathon in 2017. I'm gonna run another marathon in January of 2019. I ran outside today, and I'm recording this video. I ran outside all the time. I never had my knees never feel anything. So what I realized was the thing that was really making my knees hurt was playing basketball. It wasn't the concrete. It wasn't running long distances. It was basketball itself that was messing up my knees, and it wasn't because of the impact on the ground. It's because of the stopping and starting and changing directions and the jumping and bumping. All those things were what were giving my knees issues. Now, your body may be a little bit different, but the thing is, the point I'm making is I had an invisible barrier that it was the concrete and the long distances that would hurt my knees, but it was actually playing basketball that was hurting my knees. So what ideas do you have that you haven't even tested, but you're believing to be true for no reason whatsoever? Number three, what are you not doing because of who you think you're not? This is a big one. And this is one that holds back a whole lot of people for all of their lives. Things that they think they can't do. They never tried. Nobody told them that they can't. They have no factual proof that they can't do these things, but they've decided that because of who they are incapable of doing this thing. Nobody wants to hire me because I'm black. Nobody wants to have me on their team because I'm short. Nobody wants to scout me because I'm from this place. These are all excuses that I hear every single day. Emails, comments, DMs, everywhere. People have these excuses of who they think they're not and why they can't do certain things because of this. So it's kind of like all three of these points put together. I remember when I first started getting into professional speaking, after I was done playing ball, I thought I needed to make a brand new website that was only business stuff, and I had to have on a suit and all my pictures because I thought people wouldn't think I could be a speaker if I had basketball stuff or YouTube and things like that. What I realized was those were the things that made me unique. So I needed to actually leverage those instead of putting them to the side or trying to act like they didn't exist. So the question for you is, what limitations have you put on yourself based on who you are or who you think you're not? Those are the ways you check for your electric fences, your invisible barriers in your life. And the more of those invisible barriers you can, number one, be honest about and identify and then get rid of, the further you can go. So it's not about you adding more skill or more knowledge. It's about you getting rid of the stuff that's blocking you from doing what you're already capable of. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.